The alien's shadow fell over Olivia Parker like a sudden eclipse. She had been examining the peculiar violet flora of Proxima Centauri b when the ground trembled beneath approaching footsteps. Turning around, Olivia's breath caught in her throat as she gazed up, and up, at the towering figure before her. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, the alien warrior was an imposing sight. Her skin was a deep indigo, marked with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with each breath. A crest of what appeared to be hardened cartilage crowned her elongated head, and her 4 amber eyes narrowed as they focused on the human. Such a tiny thing, the alien's voice rumbled, the universal translator on Olivia's wrist converting the complex vocalizations into English. I had heard humans were small, but you're practically a larva. Olivia straightened her 5'6" frame, refusing to be intimidated despite the hammering of her heart. As the expedition's xenolinguist, first contact scenarios were her specialty, though none of her training had prepared her for this particular alien's attitude. I'm Lieutenant Olivia Parker of the Earth Exploration Corps, she replied evenly. And you are? The alien's upper lip curled, revealing teeth that resembled polished obsidian. I am Krezek, 3rd Sentinel of the Valturian hegemony. You stand on claimed territory, human. Claimed territory? The preliminary scans had shown no settlements or technology signatures in this region of the planet. Olivia's expedition had specifically chosen this location to avoid diplomatic incidents. Our scans indicated this area was uninhabited, Olivia explained, maintaining eye contact despite the strain on her neck. We meant no trespass. Krezek circled Olivia, her movement reminiscent of a predator. The alien's armor, a combination of what appeared to be both grown and forged materials, clicked softly with each step. Your primitive technology would not detect our outposts, Krezek said with a dismissive wave of her 6-fingered hand. The Valturian hegemony has maintained observation posts on this world for 3 of your centuries. Olivia accessed her neural implant, surreptitiously activating the emergency protocol that would alert the main expedition camp. She kept her expression neutral, a skill honed through years of diplomatic training. Then we have much to learn from the Valturians, she said. Our mission is peaceful exploration and scientific research. Perhaps our peoples can share knowledge. Krezek laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. Share? With beings who barely reach my chest. What could your kind possibly teach the hegemony? The condescension stoked a fire in Olivia's belly. She had encountered this kind of species arrogance before, usually from races who equated physical size with evolutionary superiority. Height isn't everything, she replied, a hint of steel entering her voice. Humans have navigated interstellar space for less than a century, yet we've established peaceful relations with 17 sentient species. Peaceful because you lack the strength to conquer, Krezek retorted, but there was a flicker of something new in those amber eyes, curiosity, perhaps. Olivia chose her next words carefully. Or perhaps because we discovered that cooperation yields more benefits than conquest. Evolution favors efficiency, not just size. Krezek stopped circling and stood directly before Olivia, towering over her. The alien warrior leaned down, her face now just feet from the human's. Bold words from such a fragile vessel, she said, her breath smelling of something like cinnamon and copper. Do all humans possess such audacity, or are you defective? Despite the implied threat, Olivia found herself smiling. We call it courage, not audacity. And it's quite common among my species. To her surprise, Krezek did not react with anger but instead straightened to her full height and made a gesture that the translator couldn't interpret. Interesting, the alien warrior finally said. Most species cower when confronted by a Valturian sentinel. Yet you stand firm, like a sapling that refuses to acknowledge the storm. Is that a compliment? Olivia asked. An observation, Krezek replied. Come, tiny human. You will be escorted to our outpost. The first sentinel will decide what to do with you and your expedition. As Krezek turned to lead the way, Olivia saw the alien glance back, those 4 eyes studying her with unmistakable intrigue. First contact with the Valturians hadn't gone as planned, but Olivia sensed an opportunity. Size had never determined human destiny, and she was about to teach this alien warrior that very lesson. "Lead on," Olivia said, falling into step beside the towering figure. "I look forward to meeting more of your people." Krezek made a sound that might have been amusement. "If you survive the experience, human, you may be the first of your kind to learn our ways." "My name is Olivia," she corrected gently. "And I intend to do more than survive." The alien warrior cast one last appraising look at her small human companion. "We shall see, Olivia of Earth. We shall see." The Valturian outpost resembled a living structure more than a building. Curved walls of a material that seemed halfway between metal and organic matter rose around Olivia as Krezek led her through corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Other Valturians they passed, all towering warriors with similar crests but varying patterns of luminescence, regarded the human with mixtures of disdain, curiosity, and in some cases, what appeared to be disgust. "Your species has never been documented in the hegemony archives," explained the first sentinel, a scarred veteran named Drovan whose crest was more elaborate than Krezek's. "Your planet lies in a sector we deemed unworthy of conquest." "Lucky us," Olivia muttered, earning a sharp glance from Krezek. They stood in what Olivia assumed was a command center, though the technology was unlike anything she had encountered. Rather than screens and controls, the Valturians interfaced with their systems through direct neural connections via tendrils that extended from their consoles. "The human displays unusual confidence," Krezek reported to Drovan. "She did not cower or flee when confronted. I believe testing its capabilities would yield valuable intelligence." Olivia bristled at being referred to as it, but kept her expression neutral. This wasn't the time to debate pronouns with an alien race that might decide her entire expedition was dispensable. Drovan regarded Olivia with all 4 eyes, his head tilting slightly. "Very well. Krezek, you may proceed with assessment protocols. Determine if this species possesses any traits of value." "Sir," Krezek acknowledged with a gesture that involved pressing a fist against her chest armor. She turned to Olivia. "Follow me, human. You will be given opportunities to demonstrate your species' capabilities." "I have a name," Olivia reminded her as they left the command center. "Names are earned among the Valturian," Krezek replied. "Until you prove worthy of recognition, you remain categorized by species." "Then I look forward to earning my name," Olivia said with a determined smile. The testing chamber was a vast, circular room with walls that seemed to shift and reconfigure themselves. Krezek stood at the perimeter while Olivia was directed to the center. "The first assessment evaluates physical capability," Krezek announced. "Valturians prize strength above all attributes. Begin." Without warning, the floor beneath Olivia's feet began to vibrate, then separated into platforms of varying heights. She quickly found herself standing on an island surrounded by a 10-foot drop to a surface that glowed ominously red. "Reach the opposite side," Krezek instructed, pointing to an exit door across the chamber. "The platforms will continue to rise and fall. Those who fall suffer consequences." Olivia assessed the challenge quickly. The gaps between platforms were clearly designed for Valturian stride length, nearly impossible for a human to jump. But Olivia noticed something the alien might have overlooked: the platforms followed a pattern. As a xenolinguist, pattern recognition was her specialty. 3 seconds up, 2 down, alternating in groups of 5. Olivia took a deep breath, then began to move, not by jumping between platforms but by timing her steps to coincide with the rising and falling patterns, creating bridges where there appeared to be none. Krezek's 4 eyes widened in surprise as Olivia danced across the chamber, her movements fluid and calculated. When she reached the exit door, not even breathing hard, the alien warrior approached with a new expression, something like reluctant respect. "You used timing instead of strength," Krezek observed. "An unexpected approach." "Humans adapt," Olivia explained. "It's our greatest strength." "The next assessment tests endurance," Krezek continued, leading Olivia to another chamber. This room contained what appeared to be a maze, but the walls emitted a heat that Olivia could feel from the entrance. The temperature must have been close to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. "Navigate the thermal labyrinth," Krezek instructed. "Valturians can withstand temperatures that liquefy lesser species' internal organs." There was a hint of grim satisfaction in her voice. Olivia felt a trickle of fear. Humans could tolerate heat, but not like this, not for long. She needed to be smart again. She removed her expedition jacket and soaked it with water from her canteen. Wrapping it around her head and shoulders, she entered the maze. The heat was intense, but Olivia kept moving, dampening the jacket again whenever it dried. Rather than trying to memorize the maze, she employed the ancient right-hand rule, keeping her right hand on the wall at all times. 20 minutes later, sweating profusely but still conscious, she emerged from the exit. Krezek waited, her expression inscrutable. "You should have collapsed," the alien stated flatly. "Disappointed?" Olivia asked, taking a long drink from what remained in her canteen. "Puzzled," Krezek corrected. "Your physiology should not have allowed such endurance." "The jacket kept me cool," Olivia explained. "And humans evolved on a planet with widely varying climates. We're more resilient than we look." The final chamber contained a series of alien artifacts arranged on pedestals. Krezek gestured toward them. "The intelligence assessment," she announced. "Identify the purpose of each object. You have one rotation cycle." Olivia approached the first artifact, an intricate crystal lattice that hummed faintly. Rather than touching it directly, she observed how it interacted with the light and air around it. Moving from pedestal to pedestal, she studied each object methodically, sometimes crouching to view them from different angles, other times closing her eyes to listen or smell them. Krezek watched with increasing interest as Olivia finally returned to stand before her. "The crystal lattice is a communication device," Olivia began. "It resonates at frequencies that match Valturian neural patterns. The second object is a navigational tool that maps stellar radiation. The third appears to be a biological containment unit." She continued through all 12 artifacts, correctly identifying 10 and coming remarkably close on the other 2. When she finished, silence filled the chamber. Krezek's bioluminescent patterns pulsed rapidly, a sign of agitation or excitement, Olivia couldn't tell which. "How?" the Valturian demanded. "Those artifacts are from 12 different civilizations across 3 galactic arms." Olivia shrugged. "Humans study patterns. Function follows form, regardless of the species that created it. Once you understand the principles behind technology, the applications become clear." Krezek circled Olivia slowly, those amber eyes never leaving her. "You are small, physically weak by Valturian standards, yet you completed all 3 assessments. This contradicts our understanding of evolutionary hierarchy." "Perhaps your hierarchy needs revision," Olivia suggested gently. "Strength isn't just about muscle mass. It's about adaptability, problem-solving, and perseverance." For the first time, Krezek appeared genuinely conflicted. The warrior towered over Olivia, yet somehow seemed less imposing than before. "You have earned a designation," Krezek finally announced. "You will be called Olivia Human. The first sentinel will be informed of your unexpected performance." Olivia smiled. It wasn't exactly the recognition of her full name, but it was progress. "Thank you, Krezek. I look forward to learning more about the Valturians as well." As they left the testing chambers, Olivia noticed Krezek's stride had changed. The alien no longer walked ahead, but beside her, adjusting her pace to match the human's shorter steps. It was a small gesture, but in that moment, Olivia knew she had achieved something significant. The 8-foot warrior hadn't knelt, but her perspective had begun to shift, and in diplomacy, that was often the most crucial first step. The outpost's alarm blared without warning, its resonant tone vibrating through the walls. Olivia jolted awake in the small chamber she'd been assigned, momentarily disoriented by the pulsing red bioluminescence that had replaced the standard blue-green glow of the Valturian structure. Human. Krezek burst through the doorway, her armor hastily attached and a weapon that resembled a cross between a spear and an energy rifle clutched in her hands. The outpost is under attack. The Mavari have found us. The who? Olivia scrambled to her feet, grabbing her expedition pack. A rival species. They've tracked our energy signature. Krezek's 4 eyes darted to the corridor. They seek Valturian technology. They kill all non-Mavari life forms. A distant explosion rocked the facility, and Krezek grabbed Olivia's arm. Move. The evacuation pods are in the lower sector. They sprinted through corridors now filled with rushing Valturian warriors. Despite her shorter legs, Olivia kept pace, adrenaline fueling her steps. As they rounded a corner, the wall beside them exploded inward, throwing both of them to the ground. Through the smoking breach stepped 3 figures, shorter than Valturians but still towering over Olivia. Their bodies were covered in articulated exoskeletons, and their faces were hidden behind reflective faceplates. Mavari scouts, Krezek hissed, raising her weapon despite being pinned under debris. The attackers raised their weapons, targeting the immobilized Valturian first. Without hesitation, Olivia grabbed a piece of fallen wall material and hurled it at the nearest Mavari, striking its weapon arm. The distraction gave her seconds to act. She reached into her pack and pulled out her expedition flare gun, modified for Proxima Centauri B's atmosphere. The standard illumination cartridge had been adjusted to compensate for the planet's higher oxygen content. "Close your inner eyelids," she shouted to Krezek, remembering the Valturian anatomical feature she'd observed. Olivia fired the flare directly at the Mavari trio. In the oxygen-rich corridor, the flare ignited with triple its designed intensity, creating a blinding flash that overloaded the Mavari visual sensors. The attackers staggered, disoriented, as their faceplates attempted to compensate. Using the confusion, Olivia dragged the debris off Krezek's leg and helped the much larger alien to her feet. Krezek, recovering quickly, dispatched the disoriented Mavari with efficient strikes from her weapon. "Your leg is injured," Olivia observed as they continued their escape, Krezek now limping heavily. "It is nothing," the warrior insisted, though purple fluid seeped through a crack in her leg armor. They reached a junction where the corridor split 3 ways. Krezek hesitated, her breathing labored. "The evacuation bay. I cannot remember which." "This way," Olivia interrupted, pointing to the right corridor. "I memorized the outpost layout during our walk yesterday. The gravitational pull is slightly stronger toward the evac bay." Krezek stared at her. "You detected that minute difference?" "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We notice environmental changes," Olivia explained quickly. "Let's go." More explosions echoed through the outpost as they made their way toward safety. At a sealed door, Krezek stumbled and fell to one knee, her injury finally overwhelming her. "Leave me," she ordered. "A warrior accepts death in battle." Olivia ignored the command, instead examining the nearby wall panel. Using her neural implant scanner, she identified the emergency override pattern and pressed the correct sequence. The door slid open. "Valturians may accept death," Olivia grunted as she helped Krezek up, supporting the alien's massive weight against her much smaller frame, "but humans don't accept leaving allies behind." "We are not allies," Krezek protested weakly. "Tell that to the Mavari I just helped you kill," Olivia replied, guiding them toward an evacuation pod. Once inside, Olivia quickly assessed the alien controls, finding them similar enough to other spacecraft she'd encountered. As she initiated the launch sequence, Kresik watched her with an unreadable expression. "You saved my life," the Valturian stated as the pod ejected from the outpost, which was now visibly ablaze behind them. "You could have escaped alone. Your smaller size would have made it easier." Olivia programmed a course toward her expedition's camp. "Strength isn't just about muscle, remember? Sometimes it's about what you're willing to do for others." As the pod soared away from the battle, Kresik's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a color Olivia hadn't seen before, a deep, pulsing violet that seemed to emanate from the center of the alien's chest. "In all my cycles," Kresik said quietly, "no being has ever risked themselves for me without strategic advantage." Olivia smiled, applying a medical patch from her kit to the warrior's leg wound. "Then you've been keeping the wrong company." For the first time, Kresik's lips curved in what might have been a smile. "Perhaps," the warrior admitted, watching this small human with new eyes, "I have much to learn about other forms of strength." The human expedition base was a stark contrast to the Valturian outpost, practical, modular structures nestled beside a flowing stream instead of the imposing biomechanical fortress Olivia had escaped from. Captain Thomas Reed, the expedition leader, had been skeptical about housing an 8-foot alien warrior but relented when Olivia explained how Kresik had helped her escape the Mavari attack. "The Mavari have never ventured this far into unclaimed space," Kresik observed from the bed in the medical pod where Dr. Fujimoto had treated her injured leg. The Valturian looked comically large in the human-sized facility, her long limbs extending well past the end of the bed. "They must covet Valturian beacon technology greatly." Olivia sat on a stool beside the bed, updating her xenolinguistic database with new Valturian terminology. "Why is this beacon so important?" Kresik's 4 eyes shifted, the inner pair closing briefly in what Olivia had learned was a gesture of consideration. "It maps quantum signatures across dimensional boundaries. It allows us to find resource-rich planets without traveling to them first." "Impressive," Olivia remarked. "On Earth, we have a saying, knowledge is power." "In the hegemony, power is power," Kresik replied, but there was less conviction in her voice than before. As Kresik's leg healed over the next few days, Olivia spent hours with the alien warrior, exchanging stories and information. She learned about the rigid caste system of Valturian society, warriors at the top, followed by technicians, administrators, and cultivators at the bottom. "And what is your place in this hierarchy?" Olivia asked one evening as they sat outside under twin moons. "I am third-generation warrior caste, hatched from selective breeding pools." Kresik's luminescent patterns dimmed slightly. "My genetic markers were optimal for combat roles." "You never had a choice." "Choice is inefficiency," Kresik recited, though Olivia detected a note of uncertainty. "Humans believe differently," Olivia explained, pulling up holographic images of Earth on her portable projector. "Our civilization thrived because of diversity of thought and purpose. Some of our greatest warriors were also poets. Some of our finest leaders began as farmers." Kresik studied the images with evident fascination. "This makes no sense. How can you determine optimal function without genetic designation? We don't determine it, we discover it. Each human finds their own path." The concept clearly disturbed and intrigued the Valturian. "And your path led you here, to these stars, though you are clearly not a warrior." Olivia smiled. "I fought in my own way during the tests you gave me, didn't I?" Kresik made a sound that Olivia had come to recognize as laughter. "Indeed. Though I still do not understand how your species survived long enough to develop spaceflight. You are so vulnerable." "We protect each other," Olivia said simply. "No Valturian would have carried you to the escape pod, would they?" "No," Kresik admitted. A damaged warrior is left behind. It is our way. Is it a good way? The question hung in the air between them. Kresek's patterns pulsed with rapid, conflicting colors. I have never questioned the way of valor, she finally said. It is the foundation of our society for 10,000 cycles. Yet here you are, Olivia pointed out, being cared for by a species your people deemed unworthy of conquest. Does that not suggest there might be alternative approaches to survival? Kresek stood abruptly, her massive frame silhouetted against the moon's. You ask me to doubt everything I am, human. I'm asking you to consider everything you could be, Olivia corrected gently. The Valturian warrior stared at the stars for a long moment. The third sentinel who crashed with you died in the attack, she finally said. By hegemony protocol, I should have perished as well. I exist in a state our laws do not recognize. Or perhaps, Olivia suggested, standing beside her towering companion, you've been given an opportunity to see beyond those laws. The concept is uncomfortable, Kresek admitted. Olivia laughed. Growth usually is. As they returned to the base, Kresek's stride had changed again. No longer was she the aggressive warrior leading the way, nor the injured alien matching human pace. Now she walked thoughtfully, each step deliberate, as if testing new ground. Tomorrow, she announced suddenly, I wish to learn how your people create art. This concept of expression without function requires investigation. Olivia nodded, hiding her smile. The warrior hadn't knelt physically, but perhaps her rigid ideology was finally beginning to bend. I think we can arrange that, she replied. 2 weeks after the Mavari attack, the long-range sensors at the human expedition base detected an approaching Valturian warship. Captain Reed ordered immediate evacuation preparations, but Kresek insisted on facing her people alone. This is Supreme Commander Varric, she explained, her luminescent patterns flickering with anxiety. He leads the warrior caste. He will not negotiate with species he considers inferior. Then why is he coming? Olivia asked, helping the science team pack crucial research samples. To eliminate witnesses and recover me, or my remains. Kresek's 4 eyes focused on the horizon. The hegemony cannot allow knowledge of our technology to spread. Olivia stopped packing. You knew this would happen? I suspected, Kresek admitted. What I did not anticipate was reluctance to return. That evening, as the warship entered orbit, Kresek donned her repaired armor. The once proud warrior seemed different now, the aggressive stance had mellowed, and her luminescent patterns pulsed with colors Olivia had come to recognize as contemplation rather than battle readiness. I must meet them at the designated coordinates, Kresek announced to the expedition team. Alone? Absolutely not, Captain Reed objected. We're not sending you to your death after saving your life. It is the only way to ensure your safety, Kresek insisted. Supreme Commander Varric respects the warrior's code. If I face him alone, he must grant me audience before judgment. Olivia stepped forward. Then I'm coming with you. Kresek towered over her, all 4 eyes wide with alarm. You cannot. Varric will kill you without hesitation. Not if I'm under your protection, Olivia countered. Unless Valturian honor is just empty words. The landing site was a flat plain 5 kilometers from the human base. The Valturian ship, a massive structure that resembled an obsidian arrowhead, hovered 30 meters above the ground, its engines creating a low, bone-rattling hum. As Olivia and Kresek approached, a beam of violet light shot down from the vessel, materializing into 3 towering figures. The central one stood even taller than Kresek, his crest elaborate and adorned with metallic implants that enhanced his already imposing presence. Third Sentinel Kresek, his voice boomed across the plain. You survive while your outpost falls. You consort with lesser beings. Explain yourself before execution. Kresek stepped forward, her stance respectful but not submissive. Supreme Commander, I present Olivia Parker of Earth, who saved my life when our ways would have abandoned me. Varric's eyes narrowed as they fell on Olivia. This tiny creature? Impossible. Yet true, Krezk insisted. I have learned much from these humans. They possess strengths we have never valued: adaptability, cooperation, compassion, yet these traits have allowed them to achieve wonders despite their physical limitations. Heresy, hissed one of the other Valturians. The way of valor is absolute. The way has blinded us, Krezk replied, her voice steady. We measure worth by physical dominance alone, yet we were defeated by the Mavari, a physically inferior species with superior technology and tactics. Varric took a menacing step forward. You dare question 10,000 cycles of Valturian evolution? I dare suggest evolution continues, Krezk answered. Then, to everyone's shock, she knelt before Olivia, bringing her head level with the humans. This being, half my size with a fraction of my strength, risked her life to save mine when our own protocols would have left me to die. She showed me that true strength lies not in domination but in elevation, lifting others instead of standing upon them. The assembled Valturians stared in stunned silence. A warrior kneeling before a lesser species was unprecedented, a violation of their most sacred tenets. You dishonor your caste, Varric growled. Stand and face judgment. No, Krezk replied calmly. I honor a greater truth. The hegemony stagnates while smaller species innovate. We conquer worlds but learn nothing from them. This human taught me more in 2 weeks than I learned in a lifetime of Valturian instruction. Olivia placed her hand on Krezk's armored shoulder, addressing the Supreme Commander directly. Your warrior hasn't betrayed her people, she's trying to save them. The Mavari defeated your outpost because they adapted. They studied your weaknesses. Being the tallest species in the galaxy won't matter if you can't evolve your thinking. Varric's hand moved to his weapon, but he hesitated when Krezk rose and placed herself between him and Olivia. Kill me if you must, Krezk declared, but hear me first. I propose an alliance with humanity. Their knowledge complements our strength. Together, we could resist the Mavari expansion that threatens us both. The standoff stretched for long moments, the fate of 2 species hanging in the balance. Finally, Supreme Commander Varric lowered his weapon slightly. The Hegemony Council must hear of this development, he said reluctantly. Rise, Krezk. Your punishment is suspended pending investigation of your claims. He turned his 4 eyes toward Olivia. Human, your species will be evaluated rather than conquered. Prepare your leaders for contact with the hegemony. After the Supreme Commander and his guards returned to their ship, Krezk turned to Olivia, an unprecedented expression on her alien features: hope. They will not admit it, the warrior said quietly, but you have accomplished what no species has managed in the history of the hegemony. You have made Valturians question their path. I didn't do it alone, Olivia replied with a smile. It took an 8-foot alien warrior humble enough to kneel. As they watched the Valturian ship depart, Krezk's bioluminescent patterns glowed with a new, harmonious pattern, neither the aggressive flashes of a warrior or the subdued pulses of doubt, but something balanced between strength and wisdom. In our legends, Krezk said, the greatest warriors are those who know when to stand and when to kneel. She looked down at her small human friend. Perhaps I am becoming a true warrior at last. Olivia laughed. Or perhaps you're becoming something even better, a bridge between worlds. Together, the towering alien and the small human turned back toward the expedition base, walking side by side into a future neither of their species could have imagined alone.